What if Bridgerton's sharpest tongue and most independent spirit, Eloise, is hiding a secret softer than any scandal sheet could print? Season 4 is setting her up for a journey unlike anything we've seen before. And the question fans can't stop whispering is this: is Eloise Bridgerton secretly in love with the very person she once considered her rival? Eloise Bridgerton has always been different from her siblings. Where Daphne embraced the debutante season, Anthony shouldered the family's responsibilities, and Colin yearned for adventure, Eloise has stood apart, questioning, challenging, and sometimes outright mocking the very traditions that define their world. She is witty, outspoken, and more interested in books, letters, and ideas than in ballrooms and suitors. For her, the glittering surface of Regency society has always concealed a suffocating undercurrent, especially for women. Marriage, in her eyes, has too often looked like a gilded cage. Season 3 reinforced that defiance but also showed the weight of her choices. While her siblings fell in love and carved out futures within society's expectations, Eloise felt increasingly isolated. Her fallout with Penelope after discovering her identity as Lady Whistledown left her reeling. The betrayal cut deeply, not only because of the secret but because Eloise had long envied Penelope's double life, one foot in the ballroom, the other wielding true power through her words. For Eloise, that revelation forced a painful realization: she was not living as boldly as she wanted. Her decision to leave London for Scotland at the end of Season 3 was not simply an escape, it was a declaration. Eloise was no longer willing to be a passive observer in her own story. Scotland, rugged and untamed compared to the polished ballrooms of Mayfair, symbolizes the freedom she has always craved. The change of scenery strips away the constant reminders of what society expects her to be, and opens the door to new possibilities that could shape her into a woman capable of embracing love on her own terms. Scotland also presents the opportunity for Eloise to encounter people outside the rigid hierarchies of London society. Away from the watchful eyes of the Ton, she might meet thinkers, writers, or rebels who challenge her worldview. These interactions could give her both the intellectual stimulation she has always longed for and the emotional connection she has carefully avoided. For a character who thrives on debate and dialogue, the prospect of crossing paths with someone who matches her wit and, maybe even opposes her ideas, feels inevitable. Rivalry for Eloise could easily become the spark that ignites something deeper. Her transformation, however, is not only about romance, it is about identity. In leaving her family and the only world she has ever known, Eloise is confronting her greatest fear: that she will never find a place where she belongs. Each sibling before her has found that sense of belonging through love, but Eloise has always resisted. Season 4 has the potential to explore how her independence, once a shield, may become the very trait that draws someone to her. In many ways, Eloise's move to Scotland marks the beginning of her heroine's journey. She steps into unknown territory, both literally and emotionally, where the rules are less clear and the stakes are higher. By choosing transformation over conformity, Eloise sets herself up for a story that could be the most compelling of Ula love story, born not out of duty, but out of discovery. If there's one narrative thread that Bridgerton executes to perfection, it's the intoxicating blend of love and rivalry. Time and again, the series has proven that the sharpest romances are born from the sharpest tongues. Daphne and Simon's verbal sparring in Season 1 set the stage for a union that smoldered with tension before erupting into passion. Anthony and Kate's fiery clashes in Season 2 created a slow-burn romance that had audiences hooked until the very last moment. This pattern conflict blossoming into desire has become one of Bridgerton's trademarks. And when you consider Eloise Bridgerton's personality, she seems destined for this kind of arc. Eloise is not a character who falls easily, nor would she'll be satisfied with a suitor who simply admires her wit from afar. She craves intellectual stimulation, conversation that pushes her, and someone who isn't afraid to challenge her worldview. For her, love cannot be built on superficial compliments or polite small talk. It must be forged in the fire of spirited debates and sharpened through playful, even heated, disagreements. This is why the idea of a rivals to lovers storyline for Eloise feels so natural. Season 4, with its Scottish backdrop, could be the perfect stage for this transformation. Away from London's predictable circles, Eloise has the freedom to encounter someone unexpected, perhaps a radical thinker, a reformist, or even a member of Scottish society who holds fast to traditions she despises. Imagine the clash of ideals: Eloise railing against the restrictions imposed on women, while her rival insists on the value of order and tradition. Each argument could spark frustration, but also admiration. Each debate could peel back layers of Eloise's guarded independence, revealing vulnerability she rarely allows others to see. The brilliance of a rival's two lovers story lies in its ability to blur the line between irritation and attraction. For someone like Eloise who is deeply wary of romance, this is the most believable way for her to fall in love. She would never admit to herself that she is smitten at first. Instead, she would find herself drawn into arguments she cannot walk away from, conversations that linger in her mind long after they end. Slowly, almost against her will, she might begin to realize that her so-called enemy sees her more clearly than anyone else ever has. And that is the true magic of rivalry in Bridgerton. It forces characters to confront themselves. For Eloise, meeting someone who both infuriates and intrigues her could be the catalyst for growth she didn't know she needed. The very person she labels as her adversary could turn out to be the one who understands her restlessness, her defiance, and her longing for something beyond the ordinary. Could her rival become her partner? Bridgerton has taught us that love often grows in unexpected soil. For Eloise, it may bloom in the sparks of conflict, in the fiery exchanges that leave her flushed and breathless. Season 4 may not just introduce us to her rival, it could reveal the beginning of the only kind of romance Eloise Bridgerton would ever accept. One that feels like a battle, until it suddenly feels like home. One of the greatest delights of Bridgerton is how it draws from Julia Quinn's novels while reshaping the material for television. The books provide the skeleton, the sequence of siblings, the major love stories, the social whirl of Regency, England, but the show adds flesh and flair, bending timelines, and deepening character arcs. For Eloise, this balance between tradition and reinvention could be the key to one of the most intriguing romances yet. In Quinn's original series, Eloise takes center stage into Sir Philip, with love. Her story unfolds in a way that feels both unexpected and profoundly true to her nature. After her best friend, Penelope Featherington, marries Colin Bridgerton, Eloise suddenly feels the pangs of loneliness. Her solution is both pragmatic and daring. She begins corresponding with Sir Philip Crane, a widower raising 2 children. The letters between them become a lifeline, full of curiosity, wit, and growing affection. Eventually, Eloise shocks everyone by running away to meet him in person, leading to a marriage born out of courage, honesty, and mutual need. It is a beautifully unconventional love story. But the show has already demonstrated that it isn't beholden to the novel's order or exact details. Colin and Penelope's romance, which originally came later in the book sequence, was moved up to season 3, displacing Benedict's arc. Similarly, Francesca's story has already been rewritten with the gender-swapped character of Michaela Sterling. These changes signal that Eloise's adaptation will likely receive its own twist, one that could infuse her romance with even more fire. If the series wants to lean into its signature rival's two lovers tension, Eloise's Philip may not be the same man from the novels, or at least not at first. Instead of falling into romance through the quiet intimacy of letters, Eloise might first clash with someone who challenges her in ways that only sharpen her wit and fortify her spirit. The groundwork of To Sir Philip, with love, could remain, but infused with the electricity of conflict. Letters could still play a role. Perhaps they begin by debating, writing to one another in disagreement before those exchanges turn warmer, more vulnerable, more intimate. This approach would not erase the essence of Eloise's book story. It would expand it. Her arc has always been about finding love on her own terms, in ways that defy society's expectations. A rival-turned-romantic partner fits perfectly into that theme. Instead of swooning into an arranged match or being swept up by a dashing Lord, Eloise would stumble into love through arguments, through resistance, through the reluctant recognition that someone she once dismissed might actually see her more clearly than she sees herself. By weaving rivalry into Eloise's narrative, the show could preserve the independence and unconventionality that makes her such a beloved character, while delivering the emotional depth fans crave. Whether her rival is Sir Philip reimagined, or an entirely new character introduced for dramatic spark, the potential is enormous. The novels provide the seeds, but Bridgerton thrives by planting them in unexpected soil. Eloise's story, then, could blossom as both a homage to Julia Quinn's vision and a daring reinvention, a love story that honors the letters while embracing the sparks, giving her the complexity and intensity she has always deserved. When we think of Eloise Bridgerton's greatest rival, we don't picture a dashing lord or a sharp-tongued suitor. Instead, we remember her closest friend, Penelope. Their friendship, one of the richest threads in Bridgerton, became the stage for betrayal, heartbreak, and eventual forgiveness. Eloise's fallout with Penelope in Season 2 revealed that rivalry does not always bloom between strangers across a ballroom. It can be forged in the deepest bonds, when trust is broken and loyalties are tested. The revelation that Penelope was Lady Whistledown cut Eloise to the core. It wasn't just about the deception, it was about the realization that her best friend had built an entire secret identity while Eloise, the outspoken critic of society, was still trying to find her own purpose. For a time, their relationship mirrored the worst kind of rivalry: Eloise's anger, Penelope's guilt, and the silence that stretched between them. Yet, by the end of Season 3, their reconciliation proved that love, whether platonic or romantic, can be strengthened by surviving conflict. That journey offers a powerful template for how Eloise herself might fall in love. Eloise is not a woman who gives her heart freely. She guards it with wit, sharpness, and defiance. When she feels betrayed, she does not forgive easily, but when she does extend forgiveness, it is wholehearted and absolute. Her relationship with Penelope shows us that Eloise thrives in dynamics full of push and pull, where emotions run high and connection is tested. She does not need smooth, effortless bonds. She craves honesty, even if it comes through conflict first. This is where her eventual romance could echo the Lady Whistledown storyline. Just as Eloise clashed with Penelope before rediscovering the strength of their bond, she may initially resist her romantic partner, perhaps even viewing them as an adversary. Imagine her frustration at being bested in an argument, her indignation at being misunderstood, or her outrage at someone daring to challenge her convictions. These very moments of tension could serve as the foundation of passion. If Eloise's friendship has already survived betrayal and come out stronger, it is only natural that her romance might follow the same stormy but rewarding path. What makes this prospect even richer is that Eloise has already been conditioned by her bond with Penelope to see that rivalry and love are not opposites. They are intertwined. Conflict, when rooted in care, can deepen affection rather than destroy it. In her heart, Eloise knows that people are not perfect, that they can wound us, disappoint us, and still be worthy of love. This wisdom makes her love story more mature, layered, and real than a simple tale of instant attraction. Her journey with Penelope taught her that love, whether between friends or lovers, is about persistence and forgiveness. It is about seeing beyond the mask, beyond the mistakes, and recognizing the true heart of another person. For Eloise, the echo of Lady Whistledown may linger long after the gossip sheets are gone. It may shape how she opens herself up to romance, cautiously, reluctantly, but in the end, completely. In this way, Penelope may not just be Eloise's past rival, she may be the blueprint for Eloise's future love. The possibility of a rivals to lovers arc for Eloise Bridgerton has fans buzzing with anticipation. Among the Bridgerton siblings, Eloise is one of the most distinctive, sharp-tongued, fiercely independent, and often hilariously unimpressed by society's endless obsession with marriage. She is the voice of rebellion in a family that, despite its eccentricities, has largely played by the rules of the ton. Because of this, her love story has always carried special weight. It cannot be conventional, it cannot be predictable, and it certainly cannot be simple. That's exactly why the idea of Eloise falling in love with a rival excites so many viewers. Fans adore Eloise's wit, but what they long to see now is her vulnerability. Beneath her sarcasm and sharp observations lies a young woman who fears being trapped by society's expectations, yet also secretly yearns for connection. A rivals to lovers romance would peel back those layers in a way no other storyline could. Instead of swooning at first sight or submitting to an arranged match, Eloise would resist, deny, and fight her feelings every step of the way. And that resistance would make the eventual tenderness all the more powerful. This approach would also expand Bridgerton's range of love stories. The series has already given us a whirlwind of tropes. Daphne and Simon's fake relationship turned real, Anthony and Kate's enemies to lovers slow burn, and Colin and Penelope's best friends to lovers glow. Eloise's arc, however, could stand apart by combining intellectual sparring with emotional intimacy. Imagine a love story not built on longing glances across the ballroom, but on fiery debates that slowly turn into late-night confidences. It would be romance with teeth, romance that feels as exhilarating as it is tender. Fans are also excited because Eloise deserves a partner who can truly meet her where she is. Many suitors in the Bridgerton universe would be dazzled by her wit but quickly overwhelmed by her independence. A rival, however, would be different. By definition, a rival matches her blow for blow, equal in intellect, equal in stubbornness, perhaps even equally cynical about society's rules. Watching Eloise meet her match, and eventually admit that being matched doesn't mean being diminished, would be immensely satisfying. On a broader level, Audiences are hungry for new flavors of romance within the Bridgerton world. By its fourth season, the show must prove it can keep reinventing itself while staying true to its roots. Eloise's potential arc offers just that, a dynamic, modern-feeling romance that challenges the idea of what love looks like in the Regency era. It would resonate with viewers who see themselves in Eloise's, who feel out of step with tradition, who are skeptical of convention, but who still, deep down, want to be understood and cherished. Ultimately, fans are excited because Eloise's story represents something bigger than just another Bridgerton love match. It represents the possibility of a romance that is messy, combative, transformative, and real. A love that doesn't tame Eloise but liberates her even further. And if Bridgerton delivers on that promise, her journey from rivalry to romance could become one of the most unforgettable arcs in the series. Eloise Bridgerton's romantic arc has always been one of the most anticipated in Julia Quinn's book series, and the show's decision to stretch, shuffle, and even reimagine timelines only heightens the suspense. If Bridgerton Season 4 begins to lay the groundwork for her transformation, whether through a rival, a new acquaintance in Scotland, or subtle hints of budding chemistry, then her eventual rise to the spotlight in Season 5 or 6 could feel not only earned but monumental. Giving Eloise a rival's Tulliver's arc would mark a significant shift in tone for the series. While Daphne's and Anthony's stories revolved around themes of duty, desire, and family responsibility, Eloise's would stand apart as a story of resistance giving way to revelation. Watching her wrestle with the terrifying realization that she might be in love with someone who challenges her, infuriates her, and refuses to let her retreat behind her walls could be some of the most compelling character development Bridgerton has delivered yet. This arc would also showcase her independence in a new light. Until now, Eloise's rejection of society has defined her. She has built her identity around being different, refusing to play the part her world expects of her. But falling in love with a rival would force her to reconsider what independence really means. Is it about avoiding love altogether? Or is it about choosing love on her own terms, even if it comes from the most unlikely source? That tension could give her story more emotional resonance than a straightforward romance ever could. From a storytelling perspective, Eloise's arc would keep the series fresh deep into its later seasons. One of the challenges any long-running show faces is sustaining momentum without repeating itself. Bridgerton has already leaned on several familiar romance tropes: fake dating, enemies to lovers. Eloise's potential story allows the writers to blend these tropes in a way that feels uniquely hers. It would also open the door to a slower, multi-season build, where audiences get to savor every argument, every letter, every charged glance before the payoff arrives. Fans are especially eager to see Eloise's story because she embodies the frustrations and questions of a modern audience within a Regency setting. Many viewers see themselves in her refusal to conform, in her criticisms of societal double standards, and in her search for meaning beyond marriage. Giving her a romance that begins in conflict acknowledges those traits while also letting her grow in unexpected ways. It tells audiences that vulnerability does not erase strength, and that independence and love are not opposites, they can coexist. In the bigger picture, Eloise's arc could redefine what it means to be a Bridgerton heroine. She would not simply be another sibling swept off her feet. She would be a woman who fights her way into love, kicking and screaming until she realizes that surrendering her heart is not weakness but liberation. If Season 4 begins planting those seeds, then Season 5 or 6 could deliver one of the boldest, most emotionally complex romances of the series, ensuring that Eloise's story isn't just another chapter, but a turning point for Bridgerton's future. In the glittering world of Bridgerton, romance is never simple. Every season introduces us to love stories full of longing glances, passionate debates, and scandals that ripple through high society. But as the series prepares for Season 4, one of the most intriguing questions isn't about the next ball or lady. Whistledown's latest columns about Eloise Bridgerton. Eloise has always been the sibling who refuses to play the game. While Daphne embraced the role of Diamond, Anthony wrestled with duty, and Colin found himself swept up in friendship-turned-romance. Eloise has stood apart, railing against the expectations placed upon women of her class. She has scoffed at courtship, criticized marriage, and avoided the ballroom at every turn. And yet, as fans look ahead, whispers suggest her story is about to take a surprising turn. The burning question, is Eloise secretly in love with her rival? What follows is a deep dive into how her journey so far, her book counterpart, and her relationships within the show point toward a rival's two lovers, storyline that could become one of Bridgerton's most compelling arcs yet. Among the Bridgerton siblings, Eloise has always been a rebel, witty, outspoken, and unafraid to criticize the hypocrisies of Regency society. She has never fit the mold of the perfect debutante, while her sisters and brothers navigate balls, engagements, and whispers of scandal. Eloise prefers books, ideas, and letters. To her, marriage often appears less like a fairy tale and more like a cage. But Season 3 left Eloise at a crossroads. After discovering Penelope's secret identity as Lady Whistledown, she endured one of the most painful betrayals of her life. Their fallout showed how deeply Eloise values honesty, and how devastating it is when trust is broken. Even though the two eventually reconciled, Eloise was forever changed by the revelation. Then came her boldest decision yet, leaving London for Scotland. This was not merely an escape from heartbreak or societal pressure. It was a declaration of independence, a chance to redefine herself outside the suffocating expectations of the ton. Scotland, with its rugged landscapes and distance from Mayfair's prying eyes, symbolizes freedom, the very thing Eloise has craved all along. But freedom also brings new challenges. Away from London, Eloise is likely to encounter people with entirely different perspectives, men and women who don't play by the same rules. And it is here, in this unfamiliar terrain, that she might meet someone who pushes her in unexpected ways, someone who frustrates her, debates her, and yet intrigues her. For Eloise, rivalry may not be a barrier to love, but the very spark that ignites it. If there is one thing Bridgerton excels at, it's transforming conflict into chemistry. Daphne and Simon began as sparring partners before their staged courtship turned real. Anthony and Kate's fiery banter in Season 2 electrified audiences long before they admitted their feelings. The pattern is clear. Where there's tension, romance often follows. Eloise is the perfect candidate for this trope. She is not a woman who will swoon over a compliment or settle for a suitor who nods politely at her wit. She needs someone who can challenge her, match her intellect, and refuse to let her hide behind her sharp tongue. A rival, someone whose ideals clash with her own, would do just that. Season 4's Scottish setting could be fertile ground for such a storyline. Imagine Eloise encountering a figure who embodies the traditions she despises, a man committed to order, or perhaps a reformist whose radical views unsettle even her. Their debates could be explosive, their arguments heated, each clash leaving Eloise frustrated and flushed in equal measure. Over time, those arguments might shift. What begins as irritation could transform into reluctant respect, then into something far more dangerous: attraction. Eloise, who has always resisted society's definition of love, could find herself falling not despite the conflict, but because of it. After all, rivalry and passion often dance dangerously close together. To understand Eloise's future, we must look to Julia Quinn's novels. Into Sir Philip, with Love, Eloise's story is one of courage and unconventional romance. After Penelope marries Colin, Eloise begins corresponding with Sir Philip Crane, a widower struggling to raise his children. Through letters, they forge a connection that surprises them both. Eloise eventually takes the daring step of leaving her family to meet him, leading to a marriage built on honesty, resilience, and unexpected affection. It's a love story that fits Eloise's independent spirit, but the show has already proven it isn't afraid to bend the books. Colin and Penelope's story was moved ahead of Benedict's. Francesca's arc has been reimagined with Michaela Sterling, and side characters have been expanded in new directions. This means Eloise's romance could also take on a fresh twist. Perhaps the show will still introduce Philip, but in a more adversarial role, at first someone who debates with Eloise as much as he writes to her. Or perhaps an entirely new rival will step into her path, forcing her to grow before she discovers her book counterpart's destiny. Either way, the seeds are there. Eloise's love story has always been about finding connection in an unexpected place. A rival's two lovers arc would not erase the book's heart. It would amplify it, giving fans both the essence of Quinn's vision and the drama of the show's own storytelling. For Eloise, rivalry has never been confined to strangers. Her most painful rivalry emerged from her closest friendship with Penelope. Their bond, built on honesty and loyalty, was shattered when Eloise discovered Penelope was Lady Whistledown. The betrayal cut deep, not only because of the lies, but because it forced Eloise to confront her own insecurities. While she railed against society, Penelope was secretly shaping it with her words. That fallout was more than a plot twist. It was a template. Eloise learned that love, whether platonic or romantic, can survive betrayal if both sides are willing to fight for it. She discovered that conflict does not always destroy relationships. Sometimes, it deepens them. Their reconciliation in Season 3 proved that Eloise is capable of forgiveness, and that her love, once given, is fierce and unconditional. This history could inform Eloise's future romance. Just as she clashed with Penelope before rediscovering their bond, she may initially resist her eventual partner. Arguments could echo past wounds, debates could reignite her fears, and trust could take time to build. But if Penelope taught her anything, it's that love is not about perfection, it's about persistence, honesty, and the courage to move forward despite the scars. Fans have long championed Eloise as one of Bridgerton's most relatable characters. She is outspoken, critical, and resistant to tradition, traits that resonate deeply with a modern audience. Yet beneath her sharp exterior lies vulnerability. And it's this vulnerability that viewers are eager to see explored. A rival's to lovers arc would finally deliver that depth. Instead of being swept off her feet in a whirlwind of romance, Eloise would fight her feelings every step of the way. She would argue, resist, and deny her attraction until she could no longer ignore it. For audiences, watching Eloise fall in love against her will would be immensely satisfying. This storyline would also expand the show's exploration of love. Bridgerton has already given us fake courtships, enemies to lovers, slow burns, and best friends to lovers revelations. Eloise's arc would add another layer, intellectual sparring turned into romance. It would be witty, combative, and exhilarating, a romance built as much on challenge as on affection. More importantly, it would give Eloise the partner she deserves. Someone who matches her wit, pushes her limits, and refuses to be cowed by her sharpness. For fans who have watched her critique and resist every suitor so far, seeing her finally meet her equal would be nothing short of thrilling. Looking ahead, Eloise's story has the potential to redefine the series. If Season 4 begins to plant the seeds of rivalry and connection, Season 5 or 6 could see her step fully into the spotlight with one of Bridgerton's most complex love stories. Her arc would give the show fresh momentum in its later seasons, proving that it can continue to surprise and innovate while staying true to Julia Quinn's heart. It would also showcase Eloise's independence in a new light. Rather than avoiding love as a trap, she would discover that true independence comes from choosing love on her own terms, even when it means surrendering some of her defenses. For viewers, this would be more than just another Bridgerton romance. It would be a testament to growth, vulnerability, and the messy reality of love. Eloise's rival's to lovers story would not tame her spirit, it would affirm it, showing that passion and independence are not opposites but partners in a deeper, more fulfilling life. In short, Eloise's journey could become the turning point that carries Bridgerton into its future seasons with renewed energy and emotional weight.